Wife cheated for fun and justified it, so I divorced her. Now she's desperately begging to come back. It is the ultimate betrayal. You trust someone with your heart, your future, your life, only to have them throw it all away for one simple reason: fun. This is the story of how I found out my wife cheated on me, not because of love or a mistake, but because she was bored. I had always believed in loyalty and commitment, and I thought my wife did too. But when the truth came to light, it felt like a punch to the gut. I found out she had not just slept with someone else, she had justified it to herself as a way to spice things up, like it was some harmless game. The more I learned, the more disgusted I became. She didn't even regret it. She thought I would forgive her and pretend like nothing had happened. But I had one thing she did not expect: a backbone. I divorced her, but the real shock came after that. She wanted to come back. Now she's desperate. At first, everything seemed perfect. My wife and I had been together for almost 5 years. We met in college, and our connection was immediate. We got married right after graduation. I thought we were building a life together that was strong and unbreakable. I trusted her, and she trusted me. Or so I thought. She was kind, intelligent, and beautiful. We had similar interests, shared hobbies, and even a circle of friends we both enjoyed. Our marriage was everything I had ever dreamed of. At least, that's what I thought at the time. I had always prided myself on being a loving husband, supportive, caring, and understanding. I was committed to making sure she was happy, but that was not enough. I worked long hours to provide for us both, trying to make sure we could live comfortably and have the things we needed. She always told me how proud she was of me for all my hard work, and that kept me going. But, as it turned out, the reality of our marriage was not what I had imagined. Over time, I noticed subtle changes in her behavior. Small things, like her becoming more distant, less affectionate, and spending more time on her phone than usual. At first, I chalked it up to stress at work or maybe even the natural changes that occur in a long-term relationship. But something kept nagging at me. It wasn't just normal. There was something off. It wasn't just the late-night phone calls or the random girls' nights out. It felt like there was something more going on, something I couldn't see, but deep down, I knew was happening. We had always been a social couple. Our weekends were filled with gatherings, dinners, and vacations. There was never a dull moment. But gradually, these activities began to slow down, and it was only the beginning of the changes I would soon uncover. I remember noticing how she started spending more time out with her friends and less time at home with me. It wasn't a big issue at first, but as the weeks went by, I began to feel a growing sense of loneliness. One evening, I returned home earlier than usual after a particularly exhausting day at work. I had planned to surprise her with a nice dinner. But as I entered the house, I found her sitting on the couch, her attention glued to her phone. She didn't even look up when I came in. I could tell she had been messaging someone because her smile, the one she reserved for me, was now directed at the screen. It wasn't the first time I had seen this, but something about that moment felt different. She claimed she was just talking to a friend from college, but there was an unusual secrecy to her actions. She quickly hid the phone when I approached, almost as if she was trying to protect something. In hindsight, I should have trusted my instincts then and there. But I didn't. I trusted her. I trusted that our love and our marriage were stronger than any secret. Then, a few weeks later, I found the first clue, a piece of evidence that would change everything. She had left her email open on our shared computer. Normally, I would never pry into her personal messages, but curiosity got the best of me. I scrolled through her inbox and found a string of messages that revealed something devastating. There were flirty exchanges, plans to meet, and hints of something far more than just friendship. The crushing reality began to settle in. My wife, the woman I had built my life with, had been cheating on me. But the worst part was yet to come. I couldn't have imagined just how deep her betrayal ran. The realization hit me like a wave crashing against a fragile shore, each piece of evidence more painful than the last. The first hint was small, almost insignificant, but it gnawed at me. I had always trusted her, but in my gut, I felt something wasn't right. One evening, when she left her phone unattended, I picked it up. I had no intention of snooping, but something in me told me I had to check. I unlocked it and began scrolling. The message threads were innocent at first, just the usual conversations with friends. But then I saw a name I didn't recognize, and it sparked something in me. My fingers trembled as I clicked on the thread. The conversation was full of flirtation, inside jokes, and plans to meet up. They spoke with an intimacy that felt foreign to me, even though I had once been the one she shared everything with. The shock hit me like a sucker punch. How had I not seen this? How had I not felt this before? There were messages from weeks ago, dates they had met up, times they had spent together when I was away on business or working late into the night. I felt sick to my stomach. I couldn't bring myself to read more at first, but I knew I had to understand. The truth had to come out. I dug deeper. I found texts about meetings, about moments she had spent with him, and the worst part, her rationalizations. She spoke about how she needed this because I had changed, how my depression had created distance between us, and how this excitement was something she had craved. My heart sank further as I realized she wasn't just having an affair for physical reasons. She had been emotionally entangled with him, justifying it as a need for self-discovery. The more I read, the more I realized how deep the betrayal ran. She had cheated on me, but worse, she had justified it in a way that made her actions seem almost trivial. As though it was something everyone did, and that I should just accept it because of the struggles I was going through. When she returned home that evening, I confronted her immediately. I didn't wait for an explanation. I couldn't. The truth was already out in the open. I held her phone up to her, asking one simple question: "Who is this?" Her face went pale. I could see the fear, the panic, and then the inevitable resignation as she tried to gather her words. To my horror, she didn't deny it. She admitted everything without hesitation, but what shocked me the most was how easily she justified it. She said it was something she needed to do, that she had been unhappy for so long, and that the affair had filled a void in her. She didn't even seem sorry. She didn't look remorseful at all. Instead, she told me that she had done it for fun, for the excitement, and because she deserved it. Her words stung, each one cutting deeper into me than I could have ever anticipated. I had spent so many years giving my love, my trust, and my support to this woman, and this was how she repaid me. It wasn't love she was searching for, it was a distraction, an escape from the reality she had created with me. I could barely process what she was saying, but it was becoming clear. She had cheated for the thrill of it. The affair wasn't some momentary lapse in judgment. It was a calculated decision she had made repeatedly, and now she was standing in front of me, trying to explain it away like it was something normal. I had been a fool to think our relationship was perfect. I had been so blinded by my own struggles that I didn't notice the signs, the moments of distance, the coldness that had crept in over time. But now it was all so clear. The trust one had in her was shattered. The love I thought we shared was nothing but a facade. The worst part was how easily she seemed to justify her actions. She didn't even apologize. There was no sorrow in her eyes. There was no regret. She had already made her peace with what she had done. The day I found out was not like any other. It was the day everything I thought I knew about my marriage unraveled. It started off innocently enough, with a simple request to borrow her phone. I do not even remember what it was for, just something trivial. But as soon as I held the phone in my hands, I felt that gut instinct, that feeling deep within my stomach that something was wrong. I could not explain it at the time, but I knew something was off. She had always been careful with her phone, protective of her privacy. But up until that point, I had never questioned it. I trusted her completely. I trusted her to be honest with me, to communicate openly, as we always had before. But this time, something was different. The moment her phone was in my hands, I saw that she had left it unlocked. I glanced at it, hesitating for just a moment. But then my curiosity got the best of me. What harm could it do to take a quick look? I never imagined the storm that would follow. The messages were the first things that caught my eye. They were too familiar, too intimate, too personal. I opened a conversation thread, and there they were, messages from another man. My heart skipped a beat as I scrolled through the exchange. The words jumped off the screen, each one more devastating than the last. "I miss you," one said. "Can't wait to see you again," another read. And then there were pictures. Pictures I never should have seen. I sat down, numb, my hands trembling. I could barely process what I was reading. How had I missed this? How had I been so blind? For months, she had been leading a double life. She had been seeing this man behind my back, and I had no idea. I had been right there, living my life, oblivious to the fact that everything I thought was real was nothing but a lie. The messages were filled with excitement and longing, with flirtation and promises. They painted a picture of a relationship I had never been part of. As I read, it became clear to me that this wasn't a one-time mistake. This was a pattern. A deliberate choice on her part to betray my trust. I felt the room spin. My head was heavy, my heart sinking into my stomach. I thought about the moments I had cherished, the nights we had shared, the future I had planned. And now, it felt as if all of it had been ripped away. The woman I had given my heart to had been living a secret life, one where I was nothing more than a fool. But the worst part, the part that hurt the most, was the justification. As I scrolled through the messages, I began to see her reasoning. She had told this man about the difficulties we had been facing in our marriage, but it went deeper than that. She claimed she was unhappy and unsatisfied, as if that somehow justified what she had done. She felt entitled to the affair because of how stressed she had been and how much she needed it. I had been battling my own personal struggles, and she had decided to cheat as a way to cope. I thought about the last few months. The days when I had felt distant from her, when I had withdrawn emotionally, overwhelmed by my own mental health battles. I had been struggling with depression, overwhelmed by a sense of hopelessness that I could not shake. And instead of supporting me through it, instead of reaching out, she had turned to someone else. She had sought comfort in another man, and now I was left to deal with the wreckage of my own despair. I couldn't believe it. I wanted to scream, to throw the phone across the room, to confront her right there and then. But I didn't. I had to process this, had to make sense of what I was seeing. I couldn't act out of anger, no matter how deep the betrayal cut. I put the phone down and stared at the screen, feeling the weight of the truth settle over me like a heavy blanket. There was no denying it. The evidence was right in front of me. She had been cheating on me. And now, all of the lies, all of the excuses, everything she had ever told me, seemed hollow and meaningless. I could hear her in the other room, unaware that everything had changed. She was still living her life as though nothing was wrong, while I was standing on the precipice of a reality I had never imagined. The trust that had once been the foundation of our relationship was now shattered beyond repair. And then, as if to drive the point home, I saw the final message. You deserve this. We both do. I stared at it, unable to look away. She had justified her actions to herself, convinced herself that she was entitled to this affair. As if I had somehow failed her, as if I was the cause of her infidelity. But there it was, laid out in black and white. She had made a conscious decision to betray me. That was the moment everything changed. The moment I realized that this wasn't a mistake, a moment of weakness. This wasn't something I could forgive. I had always believed in second chances, in working through the hard times, but this was different. This wasn't just a slip-up or a lapse in judgment. This was a choice. A betrayal. And it was one that I could never come back from. In that instant, I made my decision. There was no turning back. My trust had been shattered, and nothing she could say or do would ever fix it. The truth had come out, and with it, the realization that the life I had been living was nothing but a lie. The days following my discovery were a blur of emotions. I was numb, as if the world had suddenly become a strange, unfamiliar place. I moved through my daily routine in a haze, unable to shake the images of the messages, the lies, and the betrayal that had been exposed. Everything had changed in an instant, and the person I had trusted most had shattered that trust beyond repair. I knew I could not stay in the same house with her any longer. It felt like a prison, each room a reminder of the life we had built together, now tainted by her deception. But leaving was not as simple as just packing up and walking out. We had shared years of memories, plans, and dreams. We had built a life together, and suddenly, it felt like everything was falling apart. I was angry, hurt, confused, and unsure of what to do next. I could hear her in the background trying to reach me, but I did not want to hear her excuses. I did not want to listen to her justify what she had done, to explain away her actions. I was beyond that point now. I had already seen the truth, and no amount of pleading or rationalizing would change it. At first, I thought about confronting her, asking her to admit everything to my face. But as the days passed, I realized there was no need for that. The truth was already out there, and I did not need her words to confirm what I had already seen. The affair was real. The lies were real. And the damage had been done. I spent the next few days alone, trying to process everything. I reached out to a few close friends, people I knew I could trust, and began confiding in them about what had happened. They were shocked, of course, but their support helped me to regain some clarity. I realized I was not alone in this. While it felt like my world had been turned upside down, I had people who cared about me and wanted to help me heal. The first time I saw her after the revelation was one of the hardest moments I had ever experienced. She had come back to the house, tearfully begging for forgiveness. She was apologizing over and over, claiming that she made a mistake, that she was lost and confused. She blamed her actions on a variety of factors: stress, loneliness, and even my depression. But none of it mattered. I could see right through her words. The woman I had loved was not the same person standing in front of me now. The trust we had once shared was gone, and nothing could bring it back. She tried to convince me that we could work through it, that we could rebuild our relationship, but deep down I knew it was over. The foundation of our marriage had crumbled, and no amount of regret or tears could fix it. I had loved her, and I had trusted her with everything, but she had destroyed that trust. The idea of rebuilding from the wreckage was too much for me to bear. I told her that I could not continue living this lie. I could not pretend that everything was okay when it wasn't. It was time for both of us to move on, to start over, and find our own paths. I filed for divorce soon after that. I wanted nothing more to do with her. The emotional toll of the affair, combined with the pain of the betrayal, was more than I could handle. The divorce was not easy, but it was necessary. There were moments of doubt, moments where I wondered if I was making the right choice, but I knew I had to protect myself. I could not stay in a relationship that had been built on lies. I could not allow myself to be trapped in a cycle of deception and betrayal. It was time for me to reclaim my life, to take control of my own happiness. As the months went by, I focused on rebuilding myself. I sought therapy to help me process the pain of the betrayal and to work through the emotional wounds left by my wife's infidelity. Slowly I began to heal, though the scars remained. The journey was long and difficult, but I knew it was worth it. I was no longer the person I had been when I was with her. I was stronger, more aware of my own worth, and more determined to never let anyone hurt me in that way again. Then one day she reached out again. She had been trying to contact me for weeks, leaving messages, sending texts, and even showing up at my door. She was desperate to make things right, to beg for another chance. But I was no longer the person she had known. I was no longer the man who would forgive her, who would give her another shot after everything she had done. Her plea was heartfelt, but I remained firm. I could not allow myself to fall back into the trap of false promises and empty words. She had cheated on me, justified it, and betrayed me in the worst way possible. She had shown me who she truly was, and I could not unsee it. She had lost her chance, and now she had to face the consequences of her actions. I moved on with my life, focusing on healing and building a future that was no longer defined by her. It was not easy, and at times I still thought about the life we could have had. But I had learned a valuable lesson through this experience. I deserved better than someone who would lie and betray me for their own selfish desires. The journey of healing after betrayal is never an easy one. It is filled with pain, self-discovery, and the struggle to rebuild trust, not just in others, but in yourself. For me, leaving my wife was the hardest decision I had ever made, but it was also the most important one. I could not let someone who betrayed me hold me back from living my best life. Over time, I learned that I am worthy of love, respect, and honesty, and I will never again settle for anything less. The lessons I gained through this painful experience have shaped me into someone stronger, more aware of my worth, and more determined to never allow betrayal to define my future. Now, I stand here with my head held high, knowing that I have taken control of my own destiny. If you have ever been in a similar situation, remember that you deserve better. Do not let someone's betrayal hold you hostage in a relationship that is no longer healthy. Find the strength within yourself to walk away and heal. If you found this story insightful or relatable, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and press the bell icon to stay updated on more stories like this.